Hi, my name is Mark Gilks, and this is the video abstract for my new article towards a phenomenological ontology of war published in the Review of International Studies in 2025. My broad aim in the paper is to reframe our understanding of war within critical academic discourse to understand it less as an inescapable and tragic fate and more as something that humans shamefully do. This reframing, I suggest, is not only methodologically coherent, but also empowering to the extent that it counters a certain normative pessimism which I identify as characterizing some of the critical literature. To do this, I draw on the existentialist phenomenology of Martin Heidegger and Maurice Merleau-Ponty. Through these philosophers, I articulate two main arguments. First, I establish that war exists insofar as we embody it, and second, I argue that the embodiment of war is essentially an act of agency. The relevance of these arguments will become clearer if I contextualize it within the recent developments in the relevant literature, in particular critical war studies. Through the lens of phenomenology, I identify two particularly relevant movements within this emerging field. The first is a renewed emphasis on ontology, on what war is, both in itself and as an object of study. And the second is a normative emphasis which recenters the human body within the study of war. On their own terms, these two turns in the literature make significant contributions, but what I want to highlight is that their core insights remain problematically unintegrated, that war as the object of ontology remains theoretically disjointed from an adequately conceptualized human body. In the first half of the paper, I offer what I hope is a sufficiently detailed engagement with this literature, but I'll use my few minutes here to focus on the main arguments I develop in the second half of the paper. There are three key theoretical steps I take, divided into three subsections. First, I draw on Heidegger's theory of ontology to show that ontology, in the fundamental sense of a discourse on being, is something that is existentially and therefore methodologically contingent on phenomenology. Put simply, we experience ontology, and that experience is what makes ontology possible. From here, I reason that war, as one of many possible ontologies, exists only insofar as we experientially conceive it, both naively in everyday experience and theoretically in academic discourse. Notoriously, however, Heidegger overlooks the body as that which experiences, and so I turn in the second step to Merleau-Ponty. Merleau-Ponty shows us that this process of experiential conception is only possible through the perceiving body. I reason, therefore, that war exists only insofar as we can sense it imaginatively and physically. In the third step of the argument, I contend that this embodiment of war is essentially an act of agency. Our agency, of course, is highly conditioned and variable, but I emphasize that in the most fundamental and general sense, war exists because of a human willingness for it to exist. We intend it to exist, and this is why, fundamentally, it is shameful and not tragic, although in its playing out, it is, of course, tragic. So that's the argument, but what comes of it? In the paper, I offer some examples of how this agential involvement in war could be studied and how this could advance our understanding of what, why, and how war is. I emphasize, though, the importance of the underlying normative injunction of not disavowing war in academic discourse and of not inadvertently succumbing to a normative pessimism. In the paper's conclusion, I discuss what I think are three very promising avenues for further phenomenological research on war. I hope I might have convinced you to read the paper, and I hope most of all that it will contribute to our communal efforts to better understand and critique war. And finally, I would like to thank the reviewers and editors at the journal. The paper has been improved substantially in dialogue with their feedback. Thank you for listening.